Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers not close to a deal, according to numerous reports, and they're working on it, but it's a little concerning and a little head-scratching that you'd get to this point right before camp. You know, you're in the 11th hour at this point, and you don't have a deal in place. It's kind of wild. And I do believe they get it done. There's no option. This isn't something that the Packers can, weather through again. They've been dealing with this for years, like a mess of a quarterback situation. Does Aaron Rodgers come back? Does he not? Like, they finally get their guy, and they take a little bit of a gamble, right? Not extending him, last offseason, but they had to try it out. It was the right thing to do, regardless of how much more it could cost him. You can't wrap up the money like the Giants did in Danny Dimes. In a quarterback, you need to see, deliver and do what he did. And he did do what he did. And he did it well. He did it well. So we're definitely realizing this is happening at some point, but like when? 50 plus mil a year is what's going to be handed to this man. I'm on the wrong screen. 50 plus mil a year is going to be handed to this man, Jordan Love, and deservedly so. What's his value? How high can he climb in fantasy football QB rankings? How good could Christian Watson be? Does this team not have a number one wide receiver like Jordan Love has said? I think he didn't mean it the way he said it. Stroud says he has 5 number one wide receivers. He doesn't have 5 number one wide receivers, but he's trying to support his guys. He's trying to say, we don't have a number 2. We got all number 1s. Jordan Love answered this question very differently when he was asked about, does he have a number 1 wide receiver? He's like, no, we don't need one. We don't have an actual go-to guy or number 1, but I think he just means they're all so good they just spread it around and then mix it up. But do we discredit that in a way and say, no. Christian Watson can be a number 1, or Jaden Reed can be a number 1, or Wicks can be a number 1. There's 3 damn good wide receivers. If Reed goes down, Wicks goes to the moon. If Watson goes down, Wicks goes to the moon. Reed and Watson will be the initial benefactors of this man's glory and rise, but an injury could take that out and Wicks steps right in. They've got Luke Musgrave on this offense, a tight end that metrics-wise was probably more impressive than Laporta in that aspect coming into the NFL as a prospect. Looking at the numbers, he's 6'6". Ziggy, how old? Or no, Ziggy.
I missed something.
Yeah, you did.
Can you say it again?
Ziggy, shut up. Ziggy, how tall is Luke Musgrave? I think he's 6'6", right? This is Blake Corum's age. Ziggy, how tall is Luke Musgrave?
Luke Musgrave weighs 253 pounds and is 6 feet 6 inches tall.
6'6", 253. That's a monster. That's a monster. Luke Musgrave season in full effect. Kraft is injured. He's got his second injury of the offseason. Luke Musgrave's going to the mother freaking moon. Josh Jacobs. You've got Lloyd, the exciting rookie. The Packers are going to the moon. No doubt about it.
To the moon.
And it's all because of this man right here who should get his contract. The Fantasy Football Show Green Bay Packer edition. Not just Jordan Love news edition. We know he's getting his deal, but we need to talk about this Packers offense from a fantasy football perspective. That show, young man, begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show.
Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
Also, want to say Pal Derby dropped a load of gifted memberships the other day, and I didn't see it. And Ron Navy also dropped a load of gifted memberships, and I didn't see that. So stock on the rise for both those individuals. Standing ovation for Ron Navy and Pal Derby doing it live. Appreciate you all. How good can Jordan Love be? Remember last year I came in and I said, you want to win your Superflex League Follow me. Let's go take Jordan Love.
Mashed potatoes.
Let's take Jordan Love. Grab Jordan Love. We're winning championships is what we said. Superflex monster. Top 6 to 10 QB. Drops a fantastic fantasy football season and NFL season on everybody's lap. Let's take a look at what he even did last year. Let me throw those numbers on screen. This guy was an absolute gem in fantasy football and in NFL quarterbacking. He had a rough patch. No doubt about it, he had a rough patch. I remember because I'd come onto the show Sunday evening, do my waiver wire show, and people would be like, I'm cutting Jordan Love. First chance I get, I'm picking up Nathan Peterman. There was actually a comment, I remember it very well, where someone said, as soon as I can, I'm dropping this bum Love that Smitty told me to draft, and I'm picking up Nathan Peterman. And I'm reading these comments going, you're a giving up George is what you are. You're a I'm not going to stick by Jordan Love Nathan. You're a scared Scotty, a petrified Peter, a doubting Debbie. And here this man's trying to do amazing work, and you're riding him like he doesn't deserve to have some ups and downs while Christian Watson's out and the running back room is completely banged up and injured and Aaron Jones can't stay healthy. Everyone's judging this man when he's got a half a team to deal with on the offensive side of the football. He's got a full arsenal walking into 2024. He's got Josh Jacobs and Lloyd covered, doubled up. You got a backup plan for the main plan. You got a plan B in Lloyd, fantastic player. They're talking about Lloyd getting work right away. It doesn't make me feel worried about workload for Josh Jacobs, though. Jacobs is going to thrive. You've got an amazing, young, hungry running back room led by Jacobs and also Lloyd. You're covered there. This is better than Aaron Jones was, injured all year long. Dylan, who cares about any of that? We're going toward the future, the new running back stable in Green Bay. Young Aaron Jones version is Josh Jacobs. He's going to do well. And if he doesn't, Lloyd's there to pick up the slack. You got one of the most exciting, in my opinion, most capable of being a top 5 tight end of tight ends that are ranked outside the top 10 in Luke Musgrave. This is a breakout tight end in an amazing offense with a quarterback that doesn't have a number 1 according to him. So guess what that means? You don't have any sort of set plan of distribution of targets and workload. This guy Jordan Love could feed a majority of a lot of what he's doing to Luke Musgrave. Maybe near the end zone, maybe in the red zone. He becomes the number 1 target for Jordan Love in the red zone. This could be the breakout tight end everybody's been combing through tight end rankings for. And I've been here from the beginning talking about this kid. Even last year, we talked a lot about him. And on this tight end ranking show, where we break down the top 10 tight ends, projected tight ends for 2024, I think Luke Musgrave is the guy that's right outside the 9 and 10. You've got Kittle and Goddard and Bowers and Ingram and Ferguson, and you can have any order you want. Musgrave is the one guy. Sinnett's another one. Jelani Woods, Isaiah Likely. These are the players capable of climbing in and having the cup of coffee and sitting at the table with the big dogs, and people don't see it coming. Luke Musgrave's coming for everybody. Let him cook.
Let him cook.
Musgrave's coming for everyone. It's going to be a fun thing to watch, especially those doubters that don't see him as a potential top 6 QB or tight end, because he is a top 6 tight end. Luke Musgrave has the potential to be a top 6 tight end. Does he rank there now? Should you expect it? No. Do you need to expect it? No. Can you draft him in crazy territory as your second tight end option? Absolutely. When I'm drafting in Best Ball Mania, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty, link is pinned in the live chat. Code Smitty gets it done as well. They'll match your first deposit 50%. So drop $10, the minimum, they give you 5. Drop 100, they give you 50. Draft with us. Midnight shows, baby. We're doing best ball drafts. But when I'm drafting, do I have to draft Luke Musgrave as my number 1 tight end? I do not. Can I? Will I? Sure. Done it all the time. Smitty approved. But what is fun is going Luke Musgrave shopping as your second tight end in the best ball, or punting the tight end position in non-best ball, grabbing Luke Musgrave and having yet another shot at a Derrick Henry or whatever, wherever you're taking a player where you were going to take an early tight end. Late tight end's a fantastic move. Early tight end's a fantastic move. Best player available is a fantastic move. Am I shying away from McBride or Kincaid in round 5? Hell to the no. But am I drafting Luke Musgrave if I don't end up getting one of those guys? Maybe I see Mahomes fall where I've got to make a decision, McBride or Mahomes. I go Mahomes, then I go Luke Musgrave. And as for the wide receivers, ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a debate because there are 3 wide receivers on this team that have the capability of being the guy. Okay, plain and simple. And I think Jordan Love's not wrong in assessing it that way. I think it's not what you want to say to your wide receivers. It almost felt like he said we don't have an elite talent in the wide receiver room, which is how it came across, whereas CJ Stroud said the opposite. He overdid it, though. CJ Stroud's like, we got 5 number 1 wide receivers. The last I counted, let's see, you've got Nico, you've got Dell, you've got Diggs, How do you have 5 number 1 wide receivers, CJ Stroud? We know you got in your mind 3, in some people's mind 3. Diggs is debatable. Did he fall off? Did he not? Doesn't matter. It's still debatable. But where do you get 5? Jordan Love's like, I don't have any. But I sit there and I go Christian Watson as the potential. Jaden Reed's kind of a Deebo Samuel-esque player. Wicks hasn't even really we haven't tapped into what he's even capable of. But there are 3 really good wide receivers. I do agree they're not the Houston Texan wide receivers, but dare I say this, though? Dare I say that you got Schultz. We like Schultz. He's a very capable guy. He was a moon man extraordinaire at one point. So we like Schultz. We like the running back situation in Houston a little bit with Mixon, but he's older. We saw it drop off. We physically saw it drop off. One could argue that Jordan Love's sum total is equal to the sum total offense that CJ Stroud's working with, because you throw in Lloyd and Jacobs on the ground, you throw in Luke Musgrave, who I just told you is a breakout tight end capable of being a top 5 or 6 tight end at the end of the day. You've got a nice little balance that can compete with what Houston's bringing to the table offensively. Green Bay is going to have a phenomenal year. Green Bay walks into a situation where they might be a top 5 team in the NFC. They might be at least a top 5 or 6 team in the NFC, a team that's going to be very tough to beat, a team that I think will be behind Philly, San Francisco if they stay healthy, and then it's a big race to who's the number 3 team in the entire conference. Is it the Falcons, the rising Falcons? Is it the LA Rams that say, we're not going anywhere, we're only going up, and we're going to be more stabilized than before? Or is it potentially a Detroit Lion team that did damage in the playoffs last year, almost beat the San Francisco 49ers, should have beat the San Francisco 49ers. That thing unraveled in a weird fashion. Are they going to the top now? They climbed all the way to the summit. Or the Green Bay Packers going to slip in and say, you know what, we're a top 3 team. We're the 3rd team. I do give it to the Eagles and the Niners being the top 2 projected teams in the NFC. Talent level through the roof on both teams. Injury concerns for San Francisco, in my opinion, as you approach a kind of a dangerous territory for Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. And also on that offensive line, we'll see what happens. But there's certainly talent. If they stay healthy, they're going to be a top 2, top 3 team in the NFC. Eagles, can they get through the new offense and function well? Can they implement everything that Kellen Moore is bringing to the table? Quite arguably, 95% changed the offense, which is, in some ways, you could say the only red flag that is present for the Philadelphia Eagles squad in 2024. But Green Bay's there. Green Bay's at that doorstep. Green Bay's at the summit with Detroit, with the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe the Washington Commanders, if they get Brandon Ayuk. The Washington Commanders don't need a full year to get where they need to get. If they get Brandon Ayuk, this team is at the summit too. They might be the last invited team to the summit, but they're ready to climb the final stretch of Mount Everest that is the NFC. So, what an exciting team, though, this Green Bay Packer team. And dare I say that when I'm drafting in best ball, one of my favorite approaches is to do all this damage in rounds 1, 2, 3, 4. You're grabbing guys left and right. You might have Jalen Hurts at quarterback. You might even have, if you don't have the stack, and have AJ Brown in round 1 and Hurts, let's say, around 4. And then Kyren and Achane in 2 and 3, whatever the case may be. And that's best ball. Kyren doesn't fall that far, and Achane sometimes goes higher in non-best ball. We've covered that, and I'll talk about best ball and non-best ball, I think, going forward for the rest of the year. But let's say you have AJ Brown, you have Achane, you have Kyren, you have Jalen Hurts. I like nothing better, and this is a 1 QB, mind you. I like nothing better than to take Jordan Love later, to take Christian Watson and Jaden Reed, maybe Wicks as well, and have this sub stack that's sitting below my starters. And in cases where I don't stack Hurts and AJ Brown, let's say I took MHJ. I took MHJ and Hurts, and I've got Kyren and Achane. I've got no stackage going on. And people are like, this guy's not stacking anything. And stacking is not critical. You don't even need to do it. It can be beneficial, but it could also be detrimental. People are wild when they try and insinuate that you can't win if you don't stack. That's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard in my life. But what I creatively do is, all of a sudden you got this team, doesn't look like Smitty stacking at all, and then boom, I draft Jordan Love, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed, and sometimes even Wicks, all on the same team as a sub stack, as a monster stack, as a sleeping giant stack. That's how we roll. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it, and it's worked out pretty well so far. I love it. And I also love this Kyler Murray MHJ kind of quietly slide underneath, the radar type of stack where you go MHJ, Kyren, or MHJ, Achane, Kyren, Jalen Hurts, right? Where's your stack? You got Jalen Hurts and MHJ? You don't have AJ Brown? What are you doing, bro? What are you doing? Maybe I've even drafted St. Brown over AJ Brown and still wanted St. Brown and Jalen Hurts. Oh, Smitty doesn't know what he's doing. But in the case where I get like MHJ and Hurts, I'll draft Kyler in a 1 QB later on and have that crafty sub stack. That's how I do it. Jordan Love, where are you ranking him this year? Is he a top 6 to 10 quarterback? I want everybody to drop a number in the chat that correlates to where you think Jordan Love finishes as a QB in fantasy football 2024. If it's 6, drop a 6. If it's 7, drop a 7. If it's 5, drop a 5. If you think he's going to be higher, drop your bold statement on everybody right now, and drop your ranking wad on screen right now. What is the number? What is the number? Also, we'll go into some other details. I'll throw all your numbers on screen. 7 from EOT. He says, give me QB 7. We got Klondike with the bold 1. We got Johnny with the 7. We got King with an 8. We got Paul with a 3. Arrogant says 10. Saul says 7. I like some of these rankings, some bold stuff here. Superfish says, give me 6. Almost says the same thing. Jason 6. Ron Navy says 11. Tweakin says 13. Ron and Tweakin are fighting for the lowest rank here. 5,000 yards and 50 TDs. QB1 says Seth. Wow, Seth's got season tickets. John says 4. Mr. TD says 10. Cap says 7. Aldi given the range with the 6 to 8. And then Bob 5. D-Town says 8. Blackbeard says 7 to 8. That's interesting. My take would be probably along the lines of, I mean, he's not breaching my top 5. As much as I love Jordan Love, as much as he's capable of dancing inside the top 5 throughout the season, we're talking about Josh Allen. We're talking about Jalen Hurts. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes. We're talking about AR5. We're talking about Lamar Jackson. You know, you get to like that 5-6 territory. I think Jordan Love can dance in the 7 to 10. So would he finish as even 6 or 7? Could he? Yeah, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Josh Jacobs, Lloyd, Christian Watson, Wicks, and Jaden Reed. This is a unit. This is a unit. Musgrave's gonna ball. There's 40 touchdowns here. 32 last year with a piecemeal team at times. 32 last year with inconsistency at running back, getting injured, inconsistency at wide receiver, getting injured, and inconsistency at tight end, Luke Musgrave getting injured. Does anybody not understand that this man had what he had with an injured crew at each of the 3 positions? Tight end, running back, wide receiver were constantly banged up. He didn't have his one team, his A team, his absolute monster squad in there at any one of those positions consistently, let alone all at once. If you hand him the top running back on his squad, his top wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 in order, healthy on his squad, and give him his top tight end, what do you think his numbers are going to look like? Like, what's he producing? I mean, if he can do this with a bunch of broken, revolving situations on his roster, what is Jordan Love doing when he's handed consistency? 32 touchdowns, 11 INTs, 41-59 is a remarkable line for a quarterback that endured what he endured, with some pockets of bad games, bad enough for a lot of the doubters. I don't want to say a lot of you, because a lot of you are believers in here, but a lot of you doubters that are watching, you cut him. You cut him like Caleb. If you cut Jordan Love, you should be ashamed of yourself. Why did we come in here? I think I even have the actual graphic still from week number 7 or whatever it was. I believe it was here. Oh no, we did the preemptive show. I wiped it. This is a preemptive week 1 show. We're going to do another one very soon, but I wiped it. We had Jordan Love up here for weeks and weeks at a time. He was sitting there for weeks, and I'd come in and I'd say, Jordan Love shouldn't be on waivers. It's week 4. What are you doing? Don't drop him. Oh, you need a quarterback. Joe Burrow went down. Oh, AR5 went down. Kirk Cousins went down. Aaron Rodgers went down. You lost a quarterback. Guess what? Steve from accounting dropped Jordan Love in week number 4. What should you do?
Initiate full load drop.
Initiate full load drop. You need a quarterback. Jordan Love sitting there, want to win a championship, want 31 touchdowns, 4,100 yards. How about you initiate full load drop?
Initiate full load drop.
Unreal. Jordan Love to the motherfreaking moon. Top 7 to 10 QB. Jaden Reed, top 15 wide receiver material. This is a Deebo Samuel. I don't even want to say watered down Deebo Samuel, because watered down maybe in terms of the amount of running he does compared to Deebo, because it's going to be smaller, but not really, because Deebo goes back and forth. He's high rushing numbers one year and then kind of good, but not as good as the previous year. I think Jaden Reed, I don't want to say watered down, because he's, I think, capable of being a better receiver than Deebo. Deebo's capable of being better overall, running, receiving, touchdowns, yak yards. Jaden Reed could be 1,100 yards receiving, 250 rushing, 8 receiving touchdowns, and 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns. Jaden Reed can ball. Watson, we know what Watson's capable of. He's capable of being a top 10 to 12 wide receiver. And you can doubt it if you want. You can discard all of the things we talked about. All the amazing upside that he had walking into his second year after Aaron Rodgers fast-tracked him, molded him, sculpted him, gave him a 3-game stretch that was better than any receiver in the league, where he scored, I think it was, 8 touchdowns and I think it was 8 touchdowns in 3.5 games. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. Watson had such an unbelievable stretch. The best 3-game stretch I've seen in quite some time for a wide receiver. Just dropping loads all over the place. He comes into his second year. His legs are massively different in size, up to and beyond 30% size difference in his legs because of some injuries, and he never rehabbed properly. And I know that sounds crazy, but it is hard to see unless you're putting the legs side by side. You're looking from a distance. It's not like he's looking down and he figures out how big of a difference it is, but you struggle to have the same symmetry between the two legs when you're suffering constant injuries. They've solved that. Now, does he have long-term damage that will keep him off the field, and he'll continue to have hamstring injuries because his hamstrings have been damaged from the lack of symmetry between the two legs? Maybe. And that's where Wicks comes in. Wicks is a great third wide receiver. He's a great end of the draft acquisition. He's a fantastic wide receiver, 4, 5, 6, wherever you're, depending on your strategy and your build. That 4, 5, 6, he fit differently into those. But Wicks is going to be a benefactor of injury more so than taking the job from either Reed or Watson, but they're all capable. And if one man does fall, Wicks steps in, and I don't know that they miss much of a beat. Now, from a Jordan Love perspective, and not maybe a Wicks perspective, because the Wicks fans want him in the lineup as a starter or getting starter volume and not maybe the third wide receiver type action, Wicks can still have a tremendous year, but Jordan Love has an even more incredible year if Jordan Love has all 3 of these wide receivers and Luke Musgrave and Josh Jacobs healthy. We got a $50 hauler from the man known as New Age Outlaws, and he says, "You got it wrong, bro. Luke Musgrave, top 3 tight end. Put it on the board. Takes time to get a 10-year deal done for Love." Word on the streets, it could be a 10-year deal, but $50 hauler for the man known as New Age. He says Luke Musgrave, top 3 tight end. Bold prediction drop. Let's go, pal.
$50. Give me $50 holler. Like that by the brother Smitty. Give me $50. Oh, yeah.
Luke Musgrave, top 3 tight end. I love it, bro. I love it. I love it. That is a bold one. Now, keep in mind that if you miss on this, you can still win. This is discretion as to like who gets into the vote. Example, he finishes 4 or 5. You're still going to probably be in the voting running. You know what I mean? Someone says the Eagles will win the Super Bowl and Jalen Hurts wins an NFL MVP. Like if he's in the top 3 running and they win the Super Bowl, like you still can win the vote. What's the $50 bold prediction contest? You drop a $50 bold prediction and I put your prediction on the board. And we've got a board full of predictions up here on the board. You can see them right here. And I'm going to narrow it down, or we're going to narrow it down as I read them off into like 5 or 6 at the end of the year, the ones that look the most accurate. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to 100% hit too. It just it depends on the prediction. And then the winner will vote by way of putting up a poll like we do, where you guys vote. The winner will co-host the show with me, at least the first several segments, whatever you want to do. You could be on the phone line or you could be on video. It's up to you, but the winner of this bold prediction contest will start the show, the intro in the corner here with your boy Smitty, and then we'll also, be doing some other stuff. If you don't have a membership to the fantasyfootballshow.com, you'll probably get one if I had to guess. Things like that. So hang tight. Appreciate you dropping your bold prediction. Luke Musgrave to the moon, top 3 tight end. And as he said, word on the streets, a 10-year deal. Look, Mahomes signed a 10-year, $500 million deal with the freaking KC Chiefs. And when he did that, people that didn't know ball, didn't know contracts, didn't know, all this stuff would come out and say, oh, the Chiefs are done. They'll never sign another player again. Their offensive line needs to be retooled. They'll never be able to do that with this $500 million deal. But they didn't look at the actual contract. The actual contract was kicking the can down the road so far that they weren't paying Mahomes until it really got into like the third and fourth year of the contract. So Mahomes is now getting some massive money, but you have the ability to present a quarterback with such a nice deal that allows it to be very team friendly. You give them tons of signing bonus money up front so that it doesn't count against the cap, and that gives them the money they need to survive while they wait the 2 years or 3 years for the money to really kick in on the contract. But a 10-year deal also gives you maneuverability to potentially restructure and restructure and restructure. So if you're about winning championships and you're a team player and Jordan Love does sign a longer term deal, he's giving the Packers the opportunity to keep kicking the can down the road, which doesn't hurt Jordan Love. It just makes it to where you're delaying the inevitable that's coming downstream. So longer term deals are much more team friendly. This team's pretty set up well, though. They don't necessarily need to go that route, but if they did go that route, they could get even better. So unbelievable quarterback about to get signed, and he's going to get signed. As far as the amount of money, I mean, it's tough to say. 50 mil is the floor. He's getting 50 mil a year. I think some of the more important numbers are the guaranteed money, the signing bonus money. I don't think we have a question about whether he's going to be in a certain range of annual salary. We know he's going to be like 53 million, 54 million. He could be even $55 million a year. Wouldn't surprise me. Brock Purdy's at the edge of his seat awaiting what this number is, because this will very much shape Brock Purdy's deal. Brock Purdy can't even extend right now. He needs to wait until next offseason, technically speaking. So he can't even, I know some people are like, why don't they just sign Brock now? They can't. So Brock Purdy's watching this saying, okay, Jordan, let's kick this up a little bit. Let's kick this up a few notches. I want to get $55 million a year myself, says Brock Purdy. But Brock Purdy's got to go out and do some damage this year. Everyone's assuming Brock Purdy's getting this or getting that. He's still got to deliver a product on the field in 2024 in order to lock down this kind of money. Otherwise, Brock's down at the 40s. If even, depending on how bad things go or how good things go, he could be in the 50s. He could be at 54. Brock Purdy could be at 40. He could get no deal. He could get the biggest deal that we could imagine. It's all dependent on his play. And it all depends on the injuries, too. If the Niners can stave off injuries. Look, every time that offense, when Trent Williams is down, Brock Purdy turns slightly into a pumpkin. When Christian McCaffrey's out of the game, Brock Purdy turns into a pumpkin. When Debo's out, it's not great, but he can survive. If Ayuk's out, I think they put in that. It's not a big deal because they got a nice replacement of Ricky Pearsall that's very plug and play. I think Debo is very important and critical to the offense, though. But I think McCaffrey and Trent are even more important. So there's a lot going on here. Kittle is important too. There's a lot of injury factors. This is an older team that's starting to get to the point where it's like, crap, everything's got to stay together. So we'll see if Brock can have a successful year, because he needs to have that in order to get this cash money that everybody says is expected and waiting. People keep saying Brock's going to get paid. He's got to come through for another season before you can start talking like that, to be honest with you. We're putting the cart well before the horse with Brock Purdy. As far as Jordan Love, some might say the same thing. Like, we saw a glimpse of what, was good and bad. But at the end of the day, this guy had 4,100 yards and 32 touchdowns with a broken team, and took his team into, this is last year's bracket. Took his team into this situation right here. Green Bay Packers advancing past the Dallas Cowboys and almost beating the San Francisco 49ers. Should have beat the San Francisco 49ers, to be honest. This is a guy that played with a broken team, a revolving door at every major position, offensive skill position, tight end, wide receiver, running back, and still delivered 41-59, 32 touchdowns, only 11 INTs, and pretty impressive numbers overall across the board. Yards per attempt, etc. Like, this is a guy that's going to improve at every category, too. You give him a shorter field, everybody's going to probably score more touchdowns. It's going to be hard to tell. We don't know if these new kickoff rules are just going to increase the likely starting point of a team 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards. Hard to really know. We don't know if the special teams, which side of the special teams is going to benefit the most from all of this. I think we've got a lot of different experiments that are going to be implemented for each team individually, whether we're having a defensive player kick the ball off so we have an extra defender to try and contain, or whether we have a specialist like Zamet over in KC who's bringing the rugby aspect to this thing, and maybe he bulldozes through some people. Now with the new kickoff rules, Tank Dell's potentially returning kicks, as we talked about last night with Tank Dell now returning kicks potentially. That could change, but for right now, they're entertaining it. And when we talked about, whether this was true or not last night, this is the news on that. His head coach, D'Amico Ryans, didn't shoot it down. He said, I think a lot of teams are going to experiment with the return position, and a lot of teams are going to put their skill position players in an opportunity to help out with the new kickoff rules. So that didn't get shot down. So Tank Dell's in the mix for kickoff returns. That's crazy if your league allows for scoring in that department. You've got more scoring opportunities, less punts going on, better field position. Teams are more close to that 50-yard line where they don't necessarily punt every time. It's going to be wild. Maybe punters become, in a way, obsolete in the NFL, and who knows how many touchdowns this leads to. How many more touchdowns? Is a quarterback going to get maybe just 1 or 2 more touchdowns on average? Then that's not as big of a deal. Are they going to score 3 or 4 more touchdowns? Are running back touchdowns? Are we going to have more 10-plus touchdown running backs by 1, by 2, by 5? Are we going to have more 30-plus touchdown passing quarterbacks and more 40 touchdown passing quarterbacks by 1 or 2? Or is it going to be 5 or 6? Are we going to see stats dramatically change, historical stats, or are we going to see it barely get touched? Or will some weird effect happen where there's no change at all? And it's wild, it's wildly crazy how the NFL adapts to the new kickoff rules and finds a way to put a halt to any of the momentum that could be caused by this. We'll have to find out. All right, phone lines are open. Appreciate everybody. We got some celebratory messages that came in here. Blackbeard celebrating 25 months. He's got a Saturn emoji. Appreciate you. Smash that like button. Do it live. Thank you. Appreciate you, my boy. 9-month celebratory message by Call Your Boy Loud. Doing it live. Appreciate you dropping that, my guy. Thank you so much. I think we got a membership as well. Gifted memberships. Do we have any gifted? I don't think we have any gifted, but we have a member. Somebody became a member, I think. Somebody became a member. I lost it now. New Age dropping the $50 holler, and now let's open the phone lines.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Dial into the Attic.shop phone line if you dare. Your boy Smitty is here to answer the call. God, Jordan Love's going to be phenomenal. Phenomenal. I think the part that excites me the most is it's not even Jordan Love, because we've seen him do 41-32. I'm just excited to see what happens with this wide receiver, tight end, and running back stable. Last year we weren't fed a ton from the Green Bay Packers in terms of like big, huge producing fantasy football assets, but this year Josh Jacobs, top 10 running back. I mean, you could say a lot higher. Luke Musgrave, as I just mentioned, he's outside of the top 10 for most people, but I think you're looking at a top 5, 6, 7 tight end in Luke Musgrave. You've got 3 wide receivers, as we discussed, that kind of depend on each other in a way in terms of health, but you have the ability to see maybe at least 2 top 25 wide receivers emerge from this wide receiver stable. Green Bay's feed fantasy football some pretty good greatness in 2024. Jordan Love's rise and the way the team's built and the health of the team is going to make us feel and see something different than we had last year experienced. So excited about this from a multi-faceted level. Almost Jacob's new member, says Superfish. Almost Jacob's new member. Okay. Congrats on becoming a member. Thank you very much for joining. Is that almost? Yeah, almost Jacob, new member of the YouTube exclusive community, Moonshot.
To the moon.
My guy, Moonshot. Let me restart the phone line. I don't think it's working. Dial into the show. I'm going to reset it.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Yeah, did Caleb sign his new deal? Yes, he did. The announcement of it happening occurred, and then it got dialed back and said, "Wait a minute, it's not over yet." And then it ended up happening. So, Caleb Williams, after legend has it, once Caleb signed his new deal, he climbed into his mom's lap, wept like a baby. She painted his nails a special green color for money, and then he went to practice and started throwing footballs to Keenan Allen. That's the word of what happened after that signing. I'm not sure if that's true. Could be fabricated information. I'm just here to report what I heard. Ron Navy, you're live.
What's up, Smitty?
What's up?
How you feeling?
How am I what?
How you feeling?
We're good, bro. What you got?
You good right now?
What do you hear? What do you say?
Well, you're forgetting one person.
Who?
Dobbs.
Dobbs, yeah. Yeah, he's in the mix, but he's not
he's
not my favorite, but
I know he's not your favorite,
Yeah.
but I mean you
Good.
can't.
yeah.
He had 8 touchdowns last year. You know, he averaged 11.42
Yeah,
per catch.
he's
And
definitely a good role player for sure.
He was, top 32. So,
I mean, yeah, for wide receivers, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like, that's a great wide receiver to have. I just, in terms of like the fan, I don't think I'm drafting him much in fantasy, but like if injuries happen, he'll certainly have that door open too. So you're correct.
Yeah.
But that's great. That's four great wide receivers.
He had 96 targets and 59 receptions. So
Yeah.
I mean, is he a number one? No
Yeah.
way. But he's in the mix of
For sure.
the 2s and 3s.
Yeah, it's no different than like talking
Especially
about
if one goes down.
no different about than talking like, okay, Zay or Wilson in Arizona, or Ricky Parasol in San Francisco. That door could be open for him. Like, yeah, so you're right. I mean, Dobbs needs to be considered, but I think, I mean, look, Love's got weapons. He's got weapons, and he's not lying when he says he has no one. I think we all agree that there's not a Nico or Dell, dilemma where you're saying one of these guys might be top, might be way better ranked than anybody's ever expecting. But I think they're pretty, like, it's pretty good. It's pretty close.
Christian Watson,
I mean, if he stays healthy, Watson, we don't know what Watson's capable of. I mean, we loved him so much for a reason. This is kind of like the Kyron Williams thing. I hope people don't just... Kyron Williams got injured his rookie year, and then he got discarded. And I even blame myself because I was so high on Kyron. I had video after video on him saying he's going to take Akers' job when Akers was healthy. And then, he gets injured, and I just want to make sure we don't just say, oh, because he got injured, he can't come back and do what we said he was going to do. Watson should be healthy. The only risk right now is fixing that symmetry difference between the two legs. Did it create damage that's going to continue to have him pulling his hamstrings? That's certainly a factor. But as you mentioned with Dobbs steps up, Wicks steps up even further, and then you got Jaden Reed, Wicks, and Dobbs, and that's still fantastic. So yeah, Love's set up nicely, very nicely, and to come away with 32 touchdowns and 41-59 with a very injured tight end, running back, and wide receiver room just makes me feel like 35 touchdowns and 4,500 yards feels like his floor. Like 35 passing touchdowns, 4,500 yards, that feels like his floor to me. And his rushing stats, let me put those on screen here too, because he's capable of doing some rushing. Let me just put up his where is that at? Let me see if I can get his rushing stats on screen. So here's his career rushing stats, just so people can see. But he had 50 carries last year for 247 and 4 touchdowns. Sometimes you forget how good of a running quarterback he is. Like that even I was shocked when I looked at this morning, and I was like, he had like 250 and like 2 or 3, right? No, he had 247 and 4. 247 and 4. That is quite a rushing total to just add to to 32 touchdowns. This guy had 36 touchdowns. I mean, that's wild. Improving it all, and he's 40.
Yeah.
What makes you rank him
was-
11? I saw you had him ranked 11.
Well, I mean, I know he had a phenomenal year last year, just like Stroud had a phenomenal year last year, and this and that. But I mean, if you look at it, right? I mean, is he capable of being a lot higher than that? Yeah,
Okay.
he is. But
Yeah, that's fine. That's
but
all I need to hear.
you got Hurts, you got Allen, you got Burrow, you got Mahomes. I mean, right there, your top four, and then you go in. I mean,
Okay.
you got running backs. You got Lamar. You got Daniels, who's coming out. You're expecting a huge year out of him. You got Stroud. You got
Okay, that's all I needed to hear. That
you
you feel like he could do it. It's just like your preference of ranking. Okay, that's fine and totally acceptable because like wide receiver, quarterback 7 and quarterback 11 could be within 20 points. Like it really is going to
Exactly.
rotate. It's going to be a blender. But I was just wondering if you were predicting a down year or if that was just like your de facto like look, I love Love, but what do I do? You know, it's kind of like me with Burrow. You're wondering why I Burrow ranked lower than I probably you would have ever guessed. Anybody would have guessed I have. It's really just that same thing. Like I have AR5, Lamar, and Stroud all above Burrow, and even Kyler is like right there because of his running capability from a fantasy perspective, not if I wanted to draft a quarterback to lead my team. And so
Right.
like it's just one of those things where it's like, how is Burrow 7 or 8? Like I don't know. He just is. But it doesn't mean I don't love Joe Burrow. It doesn't mean I don't love his value. But yeah, he floats around there kind of like I think Love is floating around for you. 14-month membership from you, Mad.
if you rank
What?
if you rank the top 15 quarterbacks, any one of those top 15 quarterbacks can end up in the top 5, top 10, top. I mean, they can.
Yeah,
any one of them.
it's pretty
You
fluid.
know, that's just.
I mean, if I'm gonna
So it all depends.
let me rank my loosely rank my top 10 QBs. This is very, very loosely ranked. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, AR5, Lamar and Stroud kind of, right there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kyler Burrow right there with Dak. Like Kyler Burrow, Dak, I don't know how you even, like, no one can get mad at anybody for saying Dak, Kyler Burrow, or Burrow, Dak, Kyler. Like there's no argument there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 right there. That's 9. So like, yeah, Love is 9 or 10, maybe just, but at the same, to the same point that you're saying, like, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he's 5, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. Josh Allen, Hurts, Mahomes, AR5, Stroud, Lamar, Dak, Burrow, Kyler, Love are all right there. Dak, Burrow, Kyler, Love. Dak, Burrow, Kyler, Love. That's a grouping right there. That's all very, very similar. Now I will.
Me, of course, I'm putting Cousins in there, of course,
Yeah,
because
I
he
know
always
you are.
for over 4,000 yards.
I know you are.
He might not be the runner, but
You give me
and
Cousins
that's
and
why-
Penix Jr. cuffed, and I could have that conversation. But I'll tell you what. After Love and then like JD5, like if and then you start talking about like Tua, Purdy, and with Cousins there, T Log, it does kind of drop off a little bit. Stafford, Aaron Rodgers are kind of interesting, but like it definitely feels like Jordan Love. And then if you want to put Cousins, you can slip him in with Penix Jr.
What
though.
about Murray?
And then no, Murray's up
Does
above.
he, come back?
Murray's up above there. I've already ranked him. We're talking like.
Oh, did you? Were you?
Well, I think Murray, Burrow, Dak, and Love are all tied for me, kind of. they're
right.
just
I
so
didn't-
they're so close. Yeah, I mean after Jordan Love and you say Cousins with them, but right there, I think it's a clear tier break. Not one that those guys aren't capable of climbing into the tier, but yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers and Stafford, those guys are definitely capable, but it's crazy. What else you got, Ron? Or actually, let me read these real quick. UMAD 14-month membership Dynasty. Would you send 2.6 or 2.4 this year for Puka? Dynasty, would you send 2.6? Dynasty, is this a dynasty? What are we talking about? Like, the way that you're wording this, I'm thinking these are rookie picks, but they can't be, because there's no way Puka Nacua is this cheap. Like, and if you think you're getting them using 2 second rounders, you're out of your mind. And if Puka's already on a roster, this is a keeper league question, not a dynasty question. So you're mad. I have no idea what's going on here. You're gonna have to clarify on this. I don't know if you can call into the show or just repost your question. Lunchbox says for Prez, Smitty for Prez. Now's the time. Stay grinding, bro. No, not now is not the time. But I would maybe as a community we could all run for president. Lunchbox, appreciate you. Travis, you're live.
Hey, so I got to go back and watch the beginning of it, so I'm sure you kind of covered some of this, but I think they'll obviously get the deal done with him. They can't afford not to, but I think he could climb into like the top finish. I guess I should say finish as a top 5,
for sure,
5 or 6 fantasy QB this year. I mean, there's just so many options. Like I said, I'm sure you covered over that, but
yeah, I think if we were to like rank it, I'll just kind of show where I'm at. I think these are rankings that I kind of like to create once in a while, and we probably should do more of it. But like if we put Jordan or Josh Allen, Hurts, and Mahomes in this tier, the reason I say this is a tier, even though I love AR5 and I love Stroud, is just because I personally could move these guys around like 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, like any direction. I don't think I could say that about the next group, so I'm going to keep these guys in a tier. But I'd say that after that it goes AR5, Lamar, and I'm not necessarily saying Lamar over Stroud. Like I could even put Stroud here if you want. Some of the Lamar people will get mad, but that's okay. So Stroud here, and then Lamar, and then I kind of feel like this is also another tier break. Not because one of these guys like Burrow or whatever can't climb in, but because these are all still interchangeable for me, they feel like they belong in a tier. AR5 could be the last guy in this tier, or Lamar could be the first, and it wouldn't bother me. So these tiers are like interchangeable tiers. So there's your top 6 right there, 1 through 3. You got 4 through 6. And then once we get to this next tier, which I'll put over on here because I ran out of room, we've got, in no particular order, Dak, Kyler, Love, and Burrow. Let me see if I'm missing anybody. In my opinion, Love, Dak, Burrow, Kyler.
Where do you put JD5? You keep JD5 out of that for now because he hasn't done it yet.
I don't know that I'd say keep him out, but I'd say he's going to for sure at some point during the year be in this grouping.
Right.
But per start, so I don't know. Like I got Burrow and JD5 in one of the follower dynasty leagues, and I don't think right now I'm starting JD5 over Burrow in week 1 because we just need to see what's what. But it's certainly like by week 4, keep in mind, like AR5 played really 3 games and he was a top 5 QB. So he did start doing it right away. But yeah, JD5 will be in this mix. But again, the reason this is in its own tier is because I'm not bothered one single bit ranking any one of these guys first in this tier or last in this tier. So this would be 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is 7 through 10. So you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you, that it wouldn't be shocking if Jordan Love not only climbed to the top of this tier, but he climbed into this tier right here, and not only climbed in this tier, but may not be last in the tier. It's certainly capable. Like Love does not look odd.
I think there's a good chance of it.
Love or Kyler or Dak or Burrow sliding into this tier is not going to look surprising to anybody. This is a great QB group. This is probably the best top 10 QBs I've seen in over a decade. This is crazy. The talent here, and that makes people say wait on a QB, but that's not how it works. Because the running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions are just as deep, and they really are. It comes down to the best player available mentality, because at the end of the day, these guys are still scoring so many points that if you get an advantage at running back or wide receiver, that you shouldn't be getting, then it's apples to apples. Then it is worth investing in these bigger guys. I love when people think that this gives you a license to never draft an early quarterback. It doesn't if you actually compare apples to apples. What'd you say, Ron?
No, I was saying, Love did finish top 5 last year.
Yeah.
So the question is,
good point.
But the competition is so tight between all these top quarterbacks. You can flip them all around from top to bottom.
Yeah. I think these are the blenders, though, that you put them in for now. But if you blended this up here and Love jumped out into this one, it wouldn't surprise anybody, or Burrow or anybody. But yeah, I this has never been deeper. This QB pool is crazy. I
think the big advantage too is that that they're very deep with pass catchers. Even if even if you have to go down to a Wicks and a Dubs, like, he's still going to produce with those guys. And on top of it, he's kind of like Mahomes. I'm not saying he's as good as Mahomes, but in the fact where he's not a running quarterback, but he's going to run enough to get through some extra points.
Yeah, the fact that I just put this on screen, like, I was even shocked. I thought it was about 200, about 220 and 2, like, just off the top of my head. And then when I saw that he had 50 carries for 247, 4.9 a pop, 4 touchdowns, it's just a harsh reminder. Like, holy shit, man, this guy, his rushing capability is probably around 300, 350 and 4 or 5. Like, he's easily capable of running for 4 or 5 touchdowns again this year. He's a rising star for sure. And again, I think my biggest point today is to say that he did what he did, which was 32 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing, 36 total touchdowns, 11 INTs, which, isn't bad considering. And then 41-59. Oh. He did this with every position blasted with injuries. Luke Musgrave wasn't around. Christian Watson wasn't around. And then Aaron Jones was in and out and ineffective, for a big part of the season, especially when he come back and kind of hamper the flow and he wasn't really healthy. It's like, man, if Jordan Love can do this in utter chaos across all positions, I don't see how his floor isn't 4,500 yards and 40 total touchdowns. That's not even that big of an upgrade at all. That's his floor, 4,500 yards and 40 total touchdowns, which is going to be crazy. So, yeah. And because he's got a little bit of an edge on some of the other the quarterbacks, like Burrow runs a little more, though. As Burrow gets healthier, he's going to run more. He'll get you 250 and 2, 250 and 3 even. But Love doubling that is a huge advantage. That's like two extra games right there. If you got 400 something, or you got 300 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns, 350 and 4, that's like 2 extra games. it's a lot of points in the running department. It's a lot of points. And in leagues that give weird, carry, every carry you get 0.25, whatever, or first down runs, like, that's even more of an advantage that Love has. But weird when you look at it, though, and you say, okay, running quarterback Allen, running quarterback Hurts, running quarterback Mahomes, running quarterback AR5, running quarterback Lamar. Stroud's in here by himself, fending for himself, but Dak did this. Dak proved that the massive oversaturation of, passing goodness can definitely keep a Dak or somebody floating in amongst the running quarterbacks. Jordan Love's like a smaller version of a running quarterback, but it's definitely there. So Stroud And Dak, I think, and Love are the guys that are going to try and overtake some of these running quarterbacks on the rankings. It's the only reason why Burrow does get held back is it's not just, running quarterbacks score more because they run. The crazy thing is that these running quarterbacks also are amazing throwing quarterbacks. So it's not like you're trying to have, like in the case of Lamar, no offense to the Lamar fans, but he's not an amazing thrower. He's a good thrower that is an amazing runner. And I think that Hurts is an amazing thrower and also an amazing runner. Josh Allen, same thing. Mahomes, same thing. AR5, I think, will be the same thing. I think AR5 is going to be a better throwing quarterback than Lamar Jackson. And anybody can laugh all they want. He's only played 3 full games. So your assessment that I'm wrong is it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because we don't even know what he is yet. Lamar just has had tons of time to prove that he's a good passer. He can be good to great at times, but he is not an overall great passing quarterback. Never will. And JD5 will be. JD5 will be a great passer. Not a good passer, a great passer. His accuracy's to the moon, and he'll be as good of a runner as Lamar. That's why it's so funny when people give me weird reactions when I say that JD5 will be better than Lamar. They're like, oh my God. It's uncomfortable until it happens. That's my saying. And I don't know what makes people think that people don't rise up and become stars and overtake the old stars. Like it's wildly strange that people can't, grasp that new blood is coming in. Call your boy loud, $5 hauler. Wishful thinking aside, how many seasons do you think it will take for the Giants to have a QB that can take Neighbors to his full potential and ceiling? It's a great question, Call Your Boy. I think it really depends on how bad they are this year. If they're the number 1 overall pick, then I think you kind of have some of that decision-making, like ability to screw it up, narrowed down. Now, the Bears are showing you that you can still screw the 1 pick up. The Bears are showing you that if you're incompetent like this Joe Shane is one of the most incompetent GMs I've ever seen in my life. This guy is a clown. He was sitting there just trying to take all the media, and he reminds me of Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams was a GM, he'd be Joe Shane. Joe Shane's sitting in his chair, just taking it all in, like, I'm on Hard Knocks. I'm doing things. Like, he's like sitting there at the computer. I bet you if you turn the camera around, his computer would be off. He's just sitting there pretending he's doing work. And this owner walks in and sits down like a puppet. Some said he looked like an elf on a shelf, just sitting on the table, and he looked like he was begging Joe Shane to update him. Hey, what's going on with Barkley? And Joe Shane, instead of saying, well, what should we do? You're the owner. Like, what do you want? He's just like deciding everything for him. You brought me in to make decisions, so I'm going to do it. And that's kind of the way you're supposed to be, but Joe Shane's incompetent. And Joe Shane's like, oh, we're just going to let Barkley go. And I'm not saying that they had the team that necessarily needed Barkley. They're rebuilding. I get some of that, but you're also, the way you're handling it is embarrassing. And the way that you tell Barkley, okay, you're going to give us a chance again. Clearly, they want him back. Like, everyone's saying that they're rebuilding. They didn't want Barkley. They didn't need Barkley. They did. He's like, are you going to come back to us? And Barkley said on the phone, what do you mean? I already told you. You know where I want to be. I want to be in New York. You don't want to pay me, though. And take a lap on Barkley for even wanting to go back to New York, to not see that this is not the place to be. Like, what a disaster Barkley almost walked back into. If they would have paid him again, Barkley would have stayed. Like, what a dumb move. Barkley needs to get smarter about that. Barkley went to some glorious landing spot. Now he's going to thrive. But you see the owner talking to Joe Shane, and the owner says, man, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if Barkley ends up an Eagle. And he's like telling Joe, don't screw this up. Like, man, I'm putting you in charge here. If he ends up an Eagle, you've messed up. And sure enough, announcement comes. Joe Shane looks like a moron, and owner walks out of the room, and he looks back, and Joe's like, it'll be okay. No, it's not. So to answer your long-winded answer, this is the most inept organization, unfortunately, right now in the NFL, partly because it's being led by a moron. Okay, so call your boy loud. You don't really have, there's not much hope here right now. If they're the worst team in the league, which I think they probably will be, They have the number 1 overall pick, but you're not out of the woods because of what Chicago just did. They passed on JD5. In the entire NFL, I don't want to say the entire NFL, but the smart GMs and the good decision makers and the good scouts were starting to turn unanimously that JD5 was looking like the better option. And commentators everywhere are saying that. You don't be shocked if mid-season we're saying JD5 was the right pick. You know, this is the pick. But in that though, just like we've talked about Stroud. Stroud was the right pick. Bryce Young, wasn't. But if Stroud went to Carolina and Bryce Young went to Houston, we'd be having slightly different conversations too. So part of it is too that JD5 went where he needed to go. Stroud went where he needed to go, where he belonged. Sometimes fit is super vital. And so, at the same time, like JD5 went to Chicago, Caleb went to Washington. I'm not saying Caleb would have been better. I'm just saying I would have been putting my fist through a wall or shoving my head through a wall because we would have seen JD5 get Javonte Williams, in a way, right? That's how I feel about Javonte. Javonte's career was thrown down the drain at the expense of Nathaniel Hackett. And it sucks because we'll never know. We'll never know how good Javonte was going to be. And Javonte may get cut. We're hearing that. And then maybe he gets a chance in Dallas and he can rejuvenate his career. But it's still very depressing knowing that Javonte could have been so much better and we'll never know. Javonte haters will just be like, he sucked. And I disagree. Thank you for that question. Did your Matt ever reply with some clarification on this? Because this question made no sense. Sorry, keeper owner. Okay, so it's a keeper league, not a dynasty league. He said dynasty league. You got to use the right terminology because it's very important in terms of breaking down the trade. I think he said right here, sorry, keeper and owner put it on a trade block. I have the 2.4 and the 2.6. Owner is just asking for one or the other. So I don't know how many players you're keeping, bro. If it's a one keeper league, then you would draft, if everybody's keeping one player, you would potentially draft Puka Nacua at the 2.4 pick or whatever. But the thing, so like, am I giving up a second rounder in at least a one keeper league? I mean, I'm strongly considering writing in Puka Nacua in that pick. Absolutely. So you'll have to come back with some clarification on that, but it's not a dynasty league, by the way. It's a keeper league. You're mad. Appreciate the question and the super chat and everything. Thank you, Call Your Boy Loud. Appreciate you. All right, let me go back over to Ron. Ron, you got anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, hey, while you're there, put up a poll. See what we were talking about in Instagram. See, we have over 100 people in here. Get a feel for how many people have the VRs.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that later. There's definitely something down the road that we'll be looking at. Anybody that has a VR headset in the chat, you can put whether you have one or not. But definitely a conversation down the road. Legion, hey, that's it. The Giants GM isn't working out. Adam Gase or Hackett, they're available. Man, Giants are just to the point, to the neighbor's question. If we want to address the neighbor's question real quick, who here believes Neighbors is having a top 15 wide receiver or top 12 wide receiver season in New York? Okay, drop that in the chat. Rank Neighbors 1 through whatever. It's put 12, put 8, put 7. I don't know how he has more than 5 or 6 touchdowns, but it's certainly possible. But Danny Dimes is a quarterback that vultures. Number 1, number 2, they won't even live near the red zone, let alone frequent it. So it's going to be all breakaway touchdowns, which he's fully capable of doing. He's such an electric player, but he's also has to have good ball placement. He has to have a lot of different things going on. So I would say like 1,100 yards would be amazing if he can pull that off. Sometimes we see rookie wide receivers have a really good season and finish, and they end up having 900 yards. But if we gave him like even 1,100 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns, that's a good year. But where does that rank you? If I pull up an existing league here and I say, okay, what wide receiver territory does that put him in? So if I go to wide receivers, I go to last year's stats, I go to 2023. I look at wide receivers that are putting up 1,105. I see Devontae Adams at 13 with 8 touchdowns and 1,144 and 103 receptions. So he's well below wide receiver 13. We go to Pittman, who's got 109, 1152, and 4. So that's high receptions, low touchdowns, decent yards, wide receiver 16. Olave had 1123 and 5, and he had 87 receptions. I would say he's in between 87 receptions and 100 receptions. I think he gets in between Olave and Pittman. I think he gets about 1,100 yards. Olave at 1123, Pittman at 1152. And I think he's between 4 and 5 touchdowns. So I think right there at 16.5 is where I would say you're looking at a potential Neighbors finish as a wide receiver. And that just can't be somebody you're taking in round 2. It can't be somebody you're taking anywhere in round 2.
So how much better was that than Garrett Wilson? So I think that's like quite a bit better than Wilson was last year, right?
Garrett Wilson was 26. He had 1042 and 3 and 95 receptions. So yeah, I mean, you could even say.
Those guys are actually close. They're all kind of bunched together.
Yeah, 26 overall was 240 points, and number 16 was 270. So you're talking about like 30 to 40 point difference anyway.
Because I just know we had talked about him possibly putting up like a Garrett Wilson type season. So
yeah.
I'm just curious where that landed. I could see him being better though, just because better than a Garrett Wilson season, more like you just said, because it was just so dismal in New York for the Jets last year. At least the guys throwing them the ball are they're really bad, but I don't think it'll be even as bad as the Jets situation. Quite as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so Ron, I think we only have the 2 people. You and Arrogant said you have VR headsets. Real quickly, how many VR headsets does anybody have a VR headset besides Arrogance and Ron? Put it in the chat. Odell Beckham Jr. 2.0. What are you talking about, Matthew?
He's talking about Neighbors.
Yeah, but Odell's such a tough guy to use for that, because Odell, he did good for a while, but that's like when people talk about Cam, he's the next Cam Newton. You don't know if they're saying it in a bad way or a good way. Like Odell, you don't know if they're talking about it in a bad way or a good way. Because I don't look at Odell was great at a point, but it was a very short-lived, elite time frame for him. Odell has a lot of talent, but it's not.
Neighbors kind of reminds me of Chase a little bit more than an Odell.
Yeah,
just in their style of play.
Yeah, and that's the comparison. That's what his own teammates say. He's the next Jamar Chase, but and he's amazing. He's amazing. But this ADP data, we look at the ADP data again. It's such important data to look at, especially with players like Neighbors. But Neighbors is going in non-best ball at 50. It's 50 something. And that's where he should be going. That's great value. Dell at 51's fantastic. Neighbors is going, look at this, all the way down, almost to the end of this ADP screenshot. 54 overall. But Neighbors in non-best ball is going, what was it? It was right here, 27. That is just night and day. This is reckless. 27 overall. He has no business being there. Not without a quarterback or a good team or living there. This is perfect. Dell, Flowers, McBride, Neighbors. That's exactly where you want Malik Neighbors. That's where Neighbors can hit a home run from. And if he is better than anybody expects, you win a league from that potentially. Here, he's got to deliver 10 touchdowns, 1,100 yards, and 95 to 100 receptions for you to get your value back. At least 8 touchdowns and 1,200 yards and 95 receptions to get your value back. Like 27 overall is crazy.
So Matt was talking about Odell, like saying he's going to put up a first season like Odell Beckham had. And then John said Neighbors is better than Chase.
Well, I mean, it's not crazy to think Neighbors could be that good, but he needs a quarterback.
You got to prove it.
Now, the question is, though,
Odell.
You got viewers, you've got, most everyone's going to say Sanders. Does anybody think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a bust or a good quarterback? A great quarterback? Like, what's the consensus on this guy coming into New York, maybe a broken team still, and turning Neighbors into a superstar? Or does he not? You know what I mean? Like, what's everybody think on Sanders? Because he's kind of a mixed bag for people. Not everybody, I think, is going to love him translating immediately into the NFL. I could see Ron not liking him for some reason. Ron?
Do you think I'll let Ron go.
Do you like Shedeur Sanders for the NFL?
I think he could. Yeah, I do kind of.
Okay.
I think he could be all right.
All right.
You think they're definitely going young, right? Like if they could get their hands on a Dak, do you think they would try that, or you think they want to put a young guy with Dayball?
It's a great question. I think
that would change everything.
I think that Dak. I think Dak would be great for Neighbors, but I don't know that New York's good enough for Dak. I don't think they're getting Dak. I think that for Dak to go somewhere, he's got to see a lot of promise. And I think that, especially if you come off a really bad year, and I think they will, I think the Giants are going to look pathetic. I think Dak's too smart to go, I'm going there. Like, the market sure is great, but like, I don't think there's any reason you would say no to like Devontae Adams or no to staying with CeeDee Lamb, or there's not as many places as you would want in terms of being like really set up well, like thriving type situations. Like what if LAR says goodbye to Stafford? Like then Dak could go to like, that would be crazy. Dak to Puka, that would be a amazing fit. Just looking at the NFC, New Orleans is in the mix, Olave, but I don't know that they're going to look that much better to Dak. He might be like, I don't know if they got a lot of work to do. The Bucks, maybe Baker fails, but then again, it's like, Evans is going away. Seattle would be unbelievable. You've got DK, you've got JSN, you've got, a great running stable. Some people like Fan a lot this year. You go over to the AFC and you see like the Browns would be perfect, but they're married to this contract. There's no way they can entertain it. They can't get out of it, even if they want to. They're married to the worst contract in the NFL, and it's not going away anytime soon. So the best team, the best fit for Dak in the NFL, one of the top 3 picks would be the Cleveland Browns, but they can't do it. They can't partake. Let's see. Raiders obviously would be good if Adams still had enough in the tank. The Jets, what if something happens to Aaron Rodgers? What if he falls off physically or he gets injured again? You got Garrett Wilson in that situation. Maybe Adams is already there. Adams and Garrett Wilson, you get Dak. I could see that happening a year from now and just being unreal. What if Tua gets another concussion but they're going to be married to that contract if they ink him? There's a lot of, I guess there's more opportunities than I'm thinking as I pull it, pulling out the scenarios. There's a lot of opportunities, but I don't think any one of those includes the Giants unless the Giants show promise and he's like, okay, I like what's going on here. The defense is surprisingly good. They get better play out of everybody than we expect. Theo Johnson, some rising star tight end, which you never know. So like those things could definitely play into it, but I don't know. I think you'd be ridiculous to not look at those other options over the New York Giants. I just think, especially with this inept decision-making brass upstairs, I don't know, man. I don't even think they'd be smart
I mean,
enough to bring in Dak.
It would make more sense probably for them to, if they could get the right young quarterback, to give him the day ball and build a young team. But it was just a thought, just because I know there's always that chance that, you know, Dak will be floating out there next year if the Cowboys screw this up.
Yeah. What's up, Grizzly? I think he means to call me Smitty. He says, "Hey, sweetie. Long time no talk." I thought that was Denny for a second. I thought that was Denny coming in. Slime in the building. Slime's the one with the bird. How's the bird, Grizzly? Give me good news.
Yeah.
Give me good news on Sway. Have you made a list of championship team players? I don't know what that means, Grizzly. We always talk about championship team players. We don't talk about garbage players on this channel. We got Moon Men, Mars Men, Saturn Men. Grizz, where have you been, pal? Where you been? All right, boys. I got to get out of here. I'll probably be back later. Ron, did you have any final thoughts on any of this?
No, I'm good.
All right, Ron Navy to the moon. Oh, you having steak tonight, Ron?
No, I'm having leftover pizza.
Leftover pizza? That doesn't sound like Ron Navy.
Yeah. I had pizza last night.
What from where? Local pizza shop or?
I had salad. Too. This place right down the road called Beach Buzz. They got good pizza.
All right.
It's a cauliflower crust cream pizza.
Do you like deep
Then
dish?
I got a grilled chicken salad too. But I can't eat regular crust. It's too spikes my blood sugar too much.
All right. I was gonna say you should order Lou Molinati's and they deliver it in dry ice and everything. You'd like it.
Oh yeah, Lou Mal. I'll try that someday.
Yeah,
Someday
you can order them. They're kind of expensive to order, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Best pizza, man. All right, we'll see you later, Ron. Travis, any final thoughts?
Later, Ron.
Later, Travis.
Later, Ron. If you don't have it up still, we can just look later. I don't know if that list pulled up of wide receivers or no. I was just curious of where Neighbors would be if he had a season like Odell, his rookie year.
What was Odell's stat line?
91 receptions, 1,305 yards, and 12 touchdowns.
Okay, so 12. Let's see. $1,300 yards, you said?
Yeah.
So DJ Moore was 11, and he had 8 touchdowns and 96 receptions. DK Metcalf had 8 touchdowns, 1,166. How does that make sense?
Huh.
Hold on a second. I think I messed up hitting a stat. My bad. Okay. Sorry. DJ Moore was 7, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, 98. Man, if Odell had that, I mean, I can't even find someone with that that combination. Because I got like 1,700 yards and 13 touchdowns. I would say the closest thing I could find from last year would be.
He's an easy top 10 guy, though, right?
Hold on. Hold on, I'm looking at the Scott Fish Bowl. I need to get out of that one because it's got return yardage. Hold on. Let me pull up the Moon Men and Mars Men League. So leaders, wide receiver, 2023 stats. We're looking at 13 touchdowns. Here we go. Mike Evans, wide receiver 7, 13, about 1,255, 13 touchdowns, 79 receptions. I mean, that's the closest I can get to like having that touchdown total. So if he had that,
well, so you just add like 15 points or something, or 10 points or whatever
15 points
set off the receptions.
15 points to that would put him at wide receiver 4, roughly.
I mean, yeah, it'd be about 290 something points.
Yeah, not gonna happen. Not with Danny Dimes there. I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry
there.
there.
Especially are just
not gonna happen,
wild.
John. All right, Travis. We'll see you later.
All right.
I'll probably be back tonight.
Thanks, Smitty. Later.
Later.
All right.
All right. Take it easy, everyone. Appreciate you. Hit that like button on the way out the door. Don't forget Underdog Fantasy. That link is pinned in the live chat. Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty. Hit that link. We draft at most midnights. They'll match your first deposit 50%, all the way up to $250. So do it live. Don't forget to watch the Tank Dell returning kicks video. Don't forget to watch the ADP video. That's like 5 or 6 videos back. And if you missed any of this, re-watch it. Do it live. See you all later. I don't think we have any Green Bay Packer animations of any kind, but we do have the Stratosphere.
Lift off of mission 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hi, my name is B. John Robinson. I like long walks on the beach. And, well, I also like scoring.
Thanks, New Age, for the super chat. $50 hauler. Call your boy loud. Appreciate the super chat. And then You're Mad. Appreciate the super chat. And again, Puka for a second rounder and a keeper is fantastic.